Is there some way to retweet this? I can't even figure out how to do it.
Yeah, so there is a share button right at the bottom.
Share and then just hit.
Yeah, and
I
then it
just
says
copy.
share via tweet. You don't have the share.
Share. I guess just copy.
Maybe that's Android.
I suddenly feel nostalgic about the conference.
Let's see.
I guess we can start now, right?
Yeah, we
We
should
have enough
start.
people, and then maybe more will join eventually. So yeah.
Okay. So let's start without further ado. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone joining from all over the world. Welcome to this Twitter Spaces. The Spaces is about the Cash Tokens upgrade, which is taking place in 3 days on 15th May on BitcoinCash. With our speakers, we'll be discussing about this upgrade and what it means for the future of Bitcoin Cash. After the main discussion is over, stay back for a Q&A session with the speakers and get your questions answered. You can also discuss other views that you may have about the Cash Tokens upgrade. I would like to now invite our speakers to introduce themselves one by one. Let's start with Jason, followed by Emergent Reasons, then Romit, and then Cypherpunk. After your introduction, you can just take away the discussion. Yep.
Hi, y'all. I'm Jason Dreyzehner. Cash Tokens really. I've been in the space for about 10 years now, and Cash Tokens related. I am the maintainer of the chip.
Should I do the rest of Jason's introduction because that wasn't nearly enough?
Yeah, that was.
It's like, yeah, I've been building nonstop for the last 10 years. Anyway, how's it going? Okay. All right. Yeah, so Jason has done all kinds of amazing things over a long period of time and built huge part of infrastructure that BTC could have been using but chose not to. So Bitcoin Cash uh, gets to get all the advantage of that. Yeah, he does all kinds of stuff. So I'm Emergent Reasons, John Nieri, and one of the co-founders of General Protocols, a company that builds specifically on Bitcoin Cash because we're focused on building permissionless, non-custodial, trustless solutions for just general life, for business, for commerce, actual tools and products that will get used, not just for simple speculation. Yeah, because we want to see a real permissionless network, money network, grow up and make a difference in the world. So we've been building on it as a company for the last four years, and yeah, as individuals, the team members of General Protocols have all been doing things for significantly longer than that. Yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So, hey guys, my name is Romit. I'm the founder of Zapit. Yeah, I've been involved in the space for about 10 years as well. Got involved with Bitcoin in 2013. Just been in the space talking about it. Not doing much for the first, 7 years or so of it. Uh, yeah, after that, I just decided, yeah, I need to do something in the space, especially for the Indian market. So yeah, started off with cryptocurrency payment app, which use Bitcoin Cash as the main crypto as for the payments. And yeah, eventually built in a really cool feature where you could just walk into any store in India and scan a QR code and pay with BCH, and the merchant would get paid in the local currency, which is rupees. Uh, and then we also launched the peer-to-peer exchange recently. It's the only non-custodial peer-to-peer exchange in the world right now. And yeah, I'm pretty excited for the talk we're gonna have today. A lot of things within Zapit involved tokens. A lot of our ideas, like incentivizing users, giving them discounts, all kinds of offers, involved a lot of tokenization, and yeah, Cash Tokens enables even more, and we are ready to explore how much more we can actually do with it. So yeah, that's it from my side.
All right. So this is Kuldeep. I've been in this space for a few years, 2 or 3 years, like especially Bitcoin Cash. I've been associated with cryptocurrencies and blockchain structure for like more than 5 or some years. I'm the CTO of Zapit. Joined Romit in his mission like almost 2 years ago. I take responsibility in keeping the backend infra of Zapit up and running, along with writing contracts, be it Bitcoin Cash contracts or EVM contracts. Well, my latest work being the peer-to-peer exchange that we recently launched. I'm also the author of ARC system, the recurring payment system on Bitcoin Cash, but that was launched about like a year or so ago. Not used much, but I think with the Cash token upgrade, that can also be like see some light and incredible amount of upgrades and so many things that Cash token has to offer. Yeah, we are very excited for this upgrade. Can't wait to work on many features that we are going to introduce for our users. That's it.
And Kuldeep has the best T-shirts of anybody I know. Also, wait, what is this about the recurring payments? Why didn't I know about this? Can you tell me? Wait, tell me about the recurring payments. This is
Yes, Kuldeep, you need
very
to really talk
important.
about this, which he doesn't
It's
do a
actually
lot.
very important. Recurring payments is huge. So wait, what's going on?
Imogen, you're the one of you and Jason are were the two of guys who actually reviewed the contract itself. It just
Okay,
it happened so long ago, and like we didn't like talk about it and didn't build many.
that contract. You actually implemented that on Zapit.
No, not on Zapit. Like I
Ah,
just made a POC out of it, and then just it's there.
yeah. I
Yeah, we have
remember the
plans to
contract.
integrate it, but we just never got to it. Hopefully this year we are planning to integrate something like that. So it's
Man, that's a story everywhere, right? There's so much to be
yeah.
done, and there's just not enough hands to do all the things. Sometimes I'm shocked, right? There's so many I don't know how to say it. There's just so many just great opportunities just sitting around. They're just sitting around, you know? Like in a very mature industry, you look around and it's like, oh, I have this great idea, and it's like, yeah, somebody has done that like 20 years ago. They did that, right? But in Bitcoin Cash and the kind of permissionless money network space, there's just so many things that haven't even been tried yet. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, well, maybe we can just uh, ask Jason to start off with, for those who don't know what Cash Tokens itself is or how it actually benefits the entire Bitcoin Cash ecosystem. Jason, if you could just explain, give us a brief about whatever you can explain about Cash Tokens. Maybe we can just begin the talk from there.
Yeah, certainly. Y'all can hear me okay, right?
Yep. Please go
Yep.
ahead.
Yeah, sounds good.
Right. So Cash Tokens is a mostly backwards compatible upgrade for wallets. It's mostly an upgrade only for full nodes that enables both fungible and non-fungible tokens on Bitcoin Cash. So it's possible to issue assets that are either interchangeable and tradable, kind of like the same way that Bitcoin Cash is. That's a fungible token. And it's also possible to issue assets that are not interchangeable, where each individual token is completely unique or only has a few counterparts that are similar to them. Those are called non-fungible tokens. So it's I think some examples being like specific contracts, tickets for certain seats in a stadium, or in our case, they're actually quite a bit more useful in Bitcoin Cash's contract system because they also let you pass messages between contracts. So that the technical advance offered by Cash Tokens is that our contracts on Bitcoin Cash, the smart contracts that you can lock Bitcoin Cash and other tokens into, can now talk to each other. So we have significantly more capability. It actually lets us break code into multiple outputs, multiple transaction outputs, so that you can have contracts that are spread out across multiple. And it also lets us have systems of contracts that effectively perform services for other systems of contracts. So the most kind of intense example being that it's not too difficult to build a decentralized exchange that does aggregation of everybody's orders, where everybody submits their orders. You submit that you want to sell a certain number of tokens for this amount, and somebody else submits that they want to just market buy with this amount of Bitcoin Cash. Somebody else submits a different limit order, and you kind of take all those orders and aggregate them in your system of contracts and execute them all at the same time every certain period of time. So the example I'm giving is a demo, a proof of concept of a decentralized exchange called Jedex, Joint Execution Decentralized Exchange. But we can build fairly complex systems like that surprisingly simply if you compare them to the amount of code used by similar systems and other blockchain systems. So Jedex is a system of some like 8 contracts or something, and 10 or more different types of tokens that they pass amongst each other. But CashTokens lets us issue these fungible and non-fungible tokens, where you can have a company that says, hey, this fungible token represents dollars, and we'll give you dollars for if you bring them back to us. That's stable coins and other ecosystems already have. And then also CashTokens enables this kind of expanded ability of our smart contract system to make significantly more complex decentralized applications. We can do decentralized exchanges, trustless sidechain bridges, and a number of other interesting use cases.
Awesome. Yeah, that definitely sounds great. And I don't know how many of the people here know that we definitely have tokenization involved within our wallet, and we have things like discounts that we offer, but of course our token is on SLP, which is almost not used anymore, right? And we had a discount system using the post office system, I think John has an idea of how that would that kind of works. Yeah, so even if the user doesn't have any BCH, there was a system that would allow the wallet or any other platform to add BCH and take token in return, and basically allow the user to be able to spend the token. We used the similar system to actually enable discount, where in case you had enough of the tokens, you could actually get BCH from us and give us the token and get that as discounts. Does that make sense? Basically, you're able to use your tokens, redeem it for BCH. But of course, that was more of a centralized approach, where we as the platform, as Zapit, we would use our own funds in order to provide a discount for all the wallet users. But we were actually discussing about how this can be made in a decentralized way with CashTokens. Would you be able to maybe understand or tell us how something like that can be achieved on CashTokens?
Yeah, I'd say in general, whatever's currently being done with SLP, of course, can be done with CashTokens, and the most notable difference being that it can be done from a light client. Even SPV clients can provide whatever services they're providing for SLP right now, because the tokens themselves are validated by the network. So it's not possible to lie to a wallet about tokens you hold. The transaction would not even make it to your wallet, but would not be validated by whatever light client you're asking. And then the higher level question on doing it in a more decentralized way, there are certainly certainly several options for that same sort of post office protocol. One, of course, is if you have a wallet, you can probably if you do run the wallet infrastructure, then you have a good position to do something that is outside of the wider mempool. You don't need to have everybody try to submit transactions that are valid transactions and included somehow. I'd say a more decentralized strategy for a lot of that stuff, depending on what the token is. Like if you're dealing with a stable coin, we'll certainly it'll take us a little bit of development still, but we'll certainly in the coming years be able to have wallets do both large bulk aggregated swaps of whatever tokens for Bitcoin Cash and vice versa. And then also, I think there'll be a category of exchanges that are essentially work like over the counter trading, like over the blockchain trading, if you will, where each party submits their orders to the mempool as a type of transaction, and you need the person who wants Bitcoin Cash and has the token, they would be able to submit a certain type of transaction, and their counterparty would submit a different type of transaction that picks up the output of their first transaction and gives them their Bitcoin Cash and takes the tokens. I would also mention it's worth noting that on the post office protocol concept, tokens in Bitcoin Cash must be deposited, if you will, in UTXOs that have some Bitcoin Cash. So every output on the chain, this is how we prevent spam and abuse of resources in tokens. Every token has to have a little bit of Bitcoin Cash, a tiny amount. You can think of it as 700 or 800 satoshis. It's called the dust limit. But that makes it where you can't create an unlimited amount of unspent outputs on the chain that everybody has to track forever. Eventually, you run out of money relatively quickly when you factor in the dust limit. So the fact that exists means that most users will have enough Bitcoin Cash to make the transactions they expect to make. I probably should have began with this, but in a lot of other ecosystems, because transaction fees are erratic and unpredictable, they are variable rate based on network congestion. You end up paying an unexpected amount in transaction fees, and you have to, as a wallet, you have to accommodate for significantly more variable transaction fees. So in general, the user has to be aware of the transaction fees they're paying in basically all circumstances. Whereas on Bitcoin Cash, if you're a normal user and you make less than 100 transactions a day, really, maybe certainly less than 10 transactions a day, the fees that you will end up paying to the network are actually not going to be visible in your balance if you're denominating your balance in currencies that most people are used to using. It's so small that if you're an American, your transaction fees for the whole day are going to be still around a penny or less. So in most cases, I would say the best experiences are going to be made by depositing a few hundred extra satoshis in those outputs that have tokens, and just if you're a company that's giving users tokens for some reason, just deposit another penny, and your user literally won't notice, but their transaction experience is now funded for the next 100 transactions. And it's hard to overstate how much of a game changer it is to have reliable predictable transaction fees.
Reliable and predictable, exactly.
All right, that's great. So talking about the the minimum amount of BCS that must be added along with the token, are we thinking of a standard that all wallets have to follow, like let's say 1,000 satoshis or something like that, or is it going to be dependent on individual wallets to choose whatever they want to do? So how are you guys thinking about this?
I'd say definitely dependent on individual wallets. In your case, I would say it's actually very simple. Yeah, send 1,000 or 2,000. I mean, yeah, it depends on you can do the math and figure out exactly how often you expect your users to make transactions before they interact with you again, and are they really not going to have any Bitcoin Cash in their wallet? And a few other details like that. But yeah, if you're a company that sells something as a cash token, if you sell tickets as a cash token, stick a penny of Bitcoin Cash on that UTXO and you're done. And we don't need to have any complicated protocols in order to make it work. And if they get another ticket, they buy another ticket some other time, but before they make 100 transactions or whatever it is in their wallet, you're funding their wallet again when they buy their next ticket with one penny of Bitcoin Cash, and that's sufficient. That can make most use cases continue to work. And if they are an unusual user who's making hundreds of transactions, then they can buy Bitcoin Cash themselves.
Right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. But yeah, I guess talking about standards, John, you may have some ideas about how we can set some kind of standards within wallets that has to be followed in order for interactability within contracts within different platforms. So we have of course had discussions within our project as well, and Kuldeep might have some ideas that he would like to discuss here. So yeah, Kuldeep, if you want to just go ahead.
Yeah. So before this, there's the one thing that is stuck in my mind, and I can't get rid of it. So I'll just ask away anyways, and then move to what you're talking about. So in the example of Jedex, I think it's sort of a like order book like structure where you would basically wait for a lot of intents to club together and then make a transaction, or it's basically not like an instant liquidity pool provider. Is that correct?
Right. Yes. Yeah. You can think of it actually as being closely modeled off of batch auctions. They take place in very highly liquid markets. But I think we talked about this actually on the Bitcoin Cash podcast recently. That there are kind of two general types of decentralized exchanges that I expect to exist. There are the instant kind, and then these batch aggregation ones, where if you're a large entity trying to get 50 million in liquidity, and your time frame is you need to do it in the next day or two, then these batch auction style on-chain aggregated exchanges are going to be your best option. If you are just trying to make a quick trade, these aggregated auctions can be useful depending on what your time frame is. But I expect it will have a different kind of decentralized trading protocol actually for instant swaps. And you can think of them actually the way that our UTXO system works really lends itself well to essentially us using the chain as a giant limit order book for instant swaps, and then making them actually work instantly by using an escrow system. So zero conf escrows, where you commit to wanting to make your trade sometime in the next 12 blocks or so, and once you've committed a certain number of funds or tokens, you can then trade in zero conf effectively. And even if your counterparty is a miner, they don't really have an advantage in the trading. So I know that was very high level. Yes, I do expect we'll have over the counter trading. Let me also provide getting wallets to where we can do this requires a pretty titanic effort of getting our wallets quite a bit beyond where any wallets in the wider cryptocurrency space currently are. Most wallets basically have hard-coded procedures by which they sign, a set of transactions that they support, transaction types that they support. Most wallets only support single signature transactions, a very simple kind of contract, the pay to public key hash, P2PKH contract. Some wallets, if you're lucky, support multisig. But by and large, there are essentially no wallets, even in the wider smart contract space. That's where the wallet itself understands the contract that it's working with, and we'll be building on a much better foundation if our wallets actually understand the contracts they're working with, rather than basically just hard coding or trusting a contract ID, a contract hash, and then kind of calling functions on it that execute on chain, and hoping that the on chain state of the system hasn't moved from under you. In a sense, you can think of the way that most smart contract wallets work in other ecosystems right now is that they essentially only have kind of pointers to on-chain state, or they have kind of accounts in an on-chain system, and that fundamentally means that if you, for example, swap out many of the most used smart contracts actually have admin keys, and they can upgrade their contract whenever they like, and they could quite literally change the rules at any moment. And if you have some tokens of some type that you think behave in some way, they can, for example, overnight just roll out a new whitelisting system, or roll out a new way that your tokens expire, or just confiscate your tokens by changing the rules of the contract. In our system, the wallet itself needs to actually be able to construct the contract that it's sending the money to, which means that at the very least that wallets in the Bitcoin Cash space have to have, I would actually describe it as informed consent.
Yeah,
wallets are required to have informed consent on the Bitcoin Cash system. So they have to create the contract that they send the money to. So they have to understand how it's constructed. And getting there requires quite a bit more foundational work. But it means that when we get there, our wallets are going to be on a much better security footing than most smart contract ecosystems. Most ecosystems basically trust a website to send you the code to use the smart contract system, and you basically trust the website with 100% of whatever funds you hand it. And it's in some cases it's even possible that you'll get a different version of the interface than other users, so you can be rugged individually. and nobody will know. And there are different sorts of authentication schemes that can kind of be layered over this strategy. But in general, none of it is going to be as secure as if we have a kind of a separate wallet ecosystem with essentially a modular system where wallets can understand a type of contract and be able to execute actions on that type of contract. But
I think a template store is a nice analogy for it.
Yeah, exactly. And in our case, it's quite simple actually to just define the way that wallets have to interact with these smart contract systems, to define them in a JSON structure that or some other file format that is shareable between wallets and relatively easy to review. And an example of that is the application in which I built the Jedex demo, the decentralized exchange demo I was mentioning earlier. It's ide.bitoff.com. It's an open source development environment, integrated development environment for Bitcoin Cash contracts. And we'll have to continue building a lot of that tooling. In fact, the BitOff IDE was initially designed in the model of computing that Bitcoin Cash had, initially before cash tokens, where contracts can't really do too much to interact with other contracts. They can sort of encapsulate each other and refer to each other, but they can't like send a message and have the other contract trust the message. And so once you have cash tokens, our model of computing has just expanded quite drastically. So BitAuth IDE also will be increasing in power and functionality over the coming years quite a bit. But I summarize all that. We are going to have a foundation where wallets in Bitcoin Cash should be able to talk to each other, in a way, both before they hit the but when they send transactions, they should be able to talk to each other to sign, like for example, for a multisig address, multiple wallets from multiple vendors should be able to sign for a single multisig, so that your multisig vault is not subject to compromise. If your wallet vendor is compromised, you would need to compromise multiple wallet vendors. So that kind of basic for our security. And then when you kind of take that to the smart contract side, you also need to have multiple wallets from multiple wallet vendors be able to interact in the same smart contract systems. And surprisingly, it's actually easier to do that than to do interaction before you hit the mempool, because it's easy for wallets to talk about to work with a smart contract and send a transaction and have other wallets detect what has happened on chain and then interact with that. You don't have to have another messaging layer, which is required for that, multisig before it hits the chain.
And this also walks straight into, unforgeable identities. So cryptographic identities and long-term identities, upgradable identities, and so forth. Web of trust. It's going to get exciting, all of this.
Yeah. Like I'd say there were a number of things that, we were working on in 2012 and 2013 in this space
Right.
that got significantly derailed
Just completely derailed.
Yeah, like if you were a company in 2013 working on, you were a Bitcoin only company in 2013 or whatever, and you might have had products where you were trying to figure out, okay, how do we do, for example, multisig across multiple wallets, where even if you compromise our multisig wallet, you get some dependency into our chain of dependencies, and we release a bugged version of the wallet, and even if all users upgraded to the latest version of the wallet, if one of those users is using a different wallet to interact with this multisig vault, if they're using a different wallet from a different vendor on a different operating system with different hardware, and the whole stack is different, then your multisig vault is still not compromised. You're protected because you've not put all your eggs in any single basket. There's no basket in which all of your eggs are sitting. And for example, development like that kind of stopped in 2013. Is only recently, in recent years, started to pick back up around the wider cryptocurrency space, and certainly in Bitcoin Cash. Because in 2013, everybody had to kind of drop everything and focus on fee estimation algorithms, quite literally. And if you were building a company, you also needed to figure out how to start adding different altcoins, things that weren't Bitcoin, to your system. So the only companies that had done that so far were exchanges that were for the most part that were selling the altcoins, or if you're a provider, a payments provider for a specific altcoin, you built your company on that. But basically, the entire space kind of had to drop everything and reevaluate their decisions and say, we need to support as many chains as possible, and fees are here to stay, and so we need good fee estimation. And just in general, most of the roadmap of most companies really had to turn their focus in 2013. And some companies kind of never were able to make it past that, because there's kind of a never-ending treadmill of work to be done to make your fee estimation algorithm slightly better, and to make kind of to develop around the limitation in block size from that period. So we're finally working on some of these ideas that are honestly quite old. But among them, what John was mentioning there is decentralized identities that use the same exact strategy that your wallet uses to send Bitcoin Cash or to secure and hold Bitcoin Cash. We should also be able to use to secure and hold an identity that you can sign things with. So if you're familiar with PGP, it's called Pretty Good Privacy, the protocol. It's a way to have a private key and sign messages to other people. And there are kind of web of trust systems that developed around PGP occasionally. But a major shortcoming of PGP, and I would say it's Achilles' heel, the reason it never really got very big and is kind of doomed, is key rotation is informal, effectively, when you do the web of trust thing and you sign somebody else's PGP key, it's unclear what that means. And the moment you walk away, you have some uncertainty as to whether or not that same individual is still the only sole holder of that private key. And so if you try to build a web of trust system on that, it falls apart immediately. You can't trust a single hop past who you've signed for. And you still have to, make manual kind of human judgments about, what are the technical capabilities of the person whose key I just signed? Like, did they get hacked? And you certainly don't want to trust multiple hops, because you're now trusting if all of the hops between you and down the line, if any of them got hacked, then your web of trust has fallen apart. A much better strategy to do all of that is how Bitcoin does it, and Bitcoin Cash, of course. You can tell everybody well in advance what your authentication strategy is. It's called an address, and you send money to it. You can also sign things with it, and you can have multisig addresses, and you can have multisig addresses with complicated time-locked fallbacks. You can have a 30-day notice period before you're allowed to move the funds, and you can do the exact same. The security strategies that you do with Bitcoin Cash, we should be able to do with identities. And so if you do it this way, if you're a wallet company, you can have a multisig identity with which you sign your software, and users can actually, when you have the wallet app installed or whatever, if you've got it on your laptop or something, the wallet app itself could validate the update and offer an automatic install. And it's way more secure than publishing the software on your website with a PGP signature. But yeah, there's all sorts of stuff like that we've barely even begun to work on in this wider cryptocurrency ecosystem. And much of the ecosystem is focused on other things. Like, we're still doing like single sig stuff for decentralized applications. But surely by now we could have systems where multiple wallets can interact on non-trivial contracts.
Oh man, if the split hadn't been necessary, we would be so many light years ahead of where we are. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. In some ways it was valuable though, because we were able to kind of build with relative anonymity, like a relative build without being hassled so much. And the diaspora made sure that at the very least there will likely always be at least one community that isn't fully captured, if you will.
After you've been beat down enough times, you understand how to stand up and that you're gonna be okay, right?
Yeah. Something. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance.
Yeah.
So I think one of the most important things, in order to, be relevant, at least in this phase of the market, is being interoperable in a way, right? Not necessarily that, one blockchain talks to another, but one wallet behaves the same way as another from two different blockchains. Like, for example, with EVM chains, we have MetaMask behave a certain way, and every other chain tends to follow a similar behavior. would we be able to do something like that with cash tokens as well on Bitcoin Cash, or are we expecting something completely different? Is it going to be better? Is it going to be worse? What are we looking at?
I'd say both. It's certainly possible to kind of emulate what that ecosystem looks like. Yeah, if I'm going to be totally honest, long term, I hope not. The security posture and a lot of the general design choices are really insufficient for global money that every human actually uses.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to. Like, if this is going to be the world's future monetary system, then that is wholly inadequate. But yeah, we need to be able to diversify our key holding across multiple wallet vendors and wallet stacks in general. And right now, most cryptocurrency ecosystems are kind of YOLOing all of their security into one stack on the regular, as a regular feature of business. Single sig security is still like by far the most common thing everywhere, and that's actually a feature of the block size debate, of course, because if you can't use the chain very much, then it's actually expensive to do multi-sig security. So companies have to decide whether or not they want security or reasonably low fees, basically, and they're going to choose basically off-chain security, and that's what we've seen. There's been a big development of off-chain security rather than security that decentralizes your points of failure, where you have 3 different systems that have to be compromised. Instead, you see companies focusing on how to make single sig security, how to emulate better security inside single sig security. So they've got multiple systems that have to sign for a single key. But a lot of those systems tend to have really unfortunate trade-offs. And if you look across the wider ecosystem, it's definitely a development failure. A development failure that single security is still so pervasive. Even the average user, walking around with some Bitcoin Cash on their phone, should not have most of it in single sig. If we lived in a society that was Bitcoin Cash only, that would be a nightmare. If everybody was still using single sig, so we need to be building these systems as if we're serious that the whole world will use this stuff, and this will be all of how their money works. This will be if we're actually moving to decentralized financial systems, we need of course multi-sig security, but we also need trusted entities to help with time delays of withdrawals, and especially for large withdrawals, we need systems that are secure against $5 wrench attacks. So there's all sorts of things like that are just completely unanswered by the wider cryptocurrency space, because everybody's been focused on not using the chain.
I'd like to reinforce that that what we have today is okay in some aspects, and like Jason said, we can emulate the good parts, what people like to some degree, but exactly that point about, and I think this is one of the more unique things about Bitcoin Cash is that this ecosystem has this very long view, like Jason said, of, hey, we have to assume success, and success means, and you look off into the distance, and it's like there's to some degree there's a whole economy operating on this money network, and that is just a completely different vision from what more or less any other chain has, right? We've always had that, and that's been there from the beginning of Bitcoin, really, since 2009. But we just kept that, and we kept looking off at that distant, that's where we want to go, and how do we get there, to step by step get there. And yeah, if you think far off over there's a lot of things that need to be done, to the point that people are like, oh sweet, now you can do JPEG NFTs, or now you can do whatever kind of NFT systems that people are doing, and it's like, yeah, that's just like this one tiny step on the long road we have to get to an actual economy running on top of Bitcoin Cash. So yeah, there's some things that will be similar and interoperable, like you said, I think, Romit, but the view of Bitcoin Cash is, I think, much longer term and much bigger. So maybe similar in the short term, but to actually scale and reach the world and be secure, and like Jason said, like at a very minimum, being resistant to $5 wrench attacks and so forth, that just takes a whole different approach to all of those, right? For scaling and for all the security and business needs and commerce needs. So yeah, it's going to be different. It's like starting with Gopher and being like, oh, we should, probably nobody on this, most people on this call don't know what I mean when I say Gopher, but like old internet protocols that, like, oh yeah, that works. And then later on, you're like, well, it doesn't work that well, and they just get disappeared. Although they were the majority thing that everybody used at the time in the early internet, they got left behind because better things appeared and much better protocols appeared that were much more the higher utility, higher security, etc. So yeah, some things will be similar, some things will be the same, and some things are going to just completely change as we move ahead into a fully scalable network, which, right, many people still believe doesn't exist. I'd say a majority of crypto believes in this whole thing. They're like, well, on-chain scaling is just not possible. And it's like, wait. Yes, it is. It's just that that particular setup hasn't been tested because it was cut off at the knees around 2014 to 2017. So yeah, no, it is possible, but some things are going to be different. Can I ask Romit and Kuldeep, what do you think about the whole interoperability in that what can be the same and what must change in that regard?
Yeah, of course. We have also discussed a lot about this. I think we completely agree with both of you with respect to whatever you guys mentioned. Yes, security, of course, is the most important thing, and we have already seen most of the chains actually has had some sort of attack through the wallet connect kind of a feature, right? So you just sign something that you don't know, and your funds get wiped out. Of course, we need to be able to prevent things like that, and but it does not mean that the experience of being able to just connect a wallet makes it easy, right? Like it definitely does make it easy, so we need to keep good part and also build on the security aspect as well. And yeah, as far as we have discussed, I think Kuldeep definitely has some pointers that he would like to maybe mention. Kuldeep, so just take over.
Yeah, sure. So, like we definitely need have a lot of work to do in front of us. That's for sure. A lot of tooling we need to do. In regards of cash tokens, like what would basically let's talk about BCMR and the new cash address type that new wallets might need to think of just directly from day one. Do you have some opinion in this, Jason or Merchant?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So I'll start with the addresses because that's the simplest thing. So CashTokens has in the spec, it defines a new version in the cash address format. And just so anybody knows, if for anybody who doesn't know, the cash address format is how Bitcoin Cash addresses work. Bitcoin Cash : whatever. That format actually includes a pretty advanced versioning system. Where in the format itself, any client that supports cash addresses necessarily had to already implement, I think, 16 kind of free form versions, and we assigned 2 versions to support single sig and multi-sig addresses that are specifically in systems that expect cash tokens. So I think we may need to, for wallet vendors, it's valuable to note that most existing wallets and most existing wallet systems probably don't need to use those addresses. Those addresses are if you need a cash token supporting only system where you need to specifically exclude wallets that don't support cash tokens, and that's critical. Then you use those addresses. Otherwise, we simply need a strategy of basically an opt-in support where your wallet can say, yes, we still have the addresses you expect, where wallets that don't understand cash tokens rather will understand the addresses that your wallet offers. So you still use the non-cash token addresses with a query parameter, just $T at the end, and that's there isn't a wider standard yet for payment protocol or URI handling. That's something that's going to be application layer, and we need to see wallets actually implement stuff and work together and try some things before there will be a specific standard. But there's clearly kind of the emerging standard is that we know for sure at least that if you put a $T at the end of the address, then that's telling other wallets that you also support tokens on this address.
I really like the discussion happening in the cash token dev group about the adding the inside the operator, and you would add the content of the either IPFS hash or HTTP hash, and then with the content
Nice.
hash with BCMR, and you would many NFT supporting wallets would directly look from the URL itself and verify from the content that gets using basically hitting the URL and getting verifying the SHA-256 of it. But there has been to and fro going on in the discussion. So what do you think should happen? Because just 3 days away from
Yeah, thank you. And I didn't speak. So BCMR, that's BitcoinCash Metadata Registries. That's an application layer, sort of just a draft standard for wallets to implement token names and ticker symbols and icons and the things you expect when you look at these on-chain constructions. And the standard actually is thinking quite a bit ahead, 5 to 10 years ahead, in how we handle managing the issuing of dividends to fungible tokens and odd reissuance scenarios that are required for technical reasons. But I would say in general, the BitcoinCash Metadata Registry standard, the goal there is to get a really basic, easy to implement initially standard that will also grow with us. So we've thought through some of the things that will be sticky issues in a few years and made sure that we either have a way to extend it that will be non-breaking with the extensions fields, or we've already sort of figured them out if they're relatively simple, straightforward issues that are intuitive if you understand the cash tokens stuff well enough. We've designed for some of those scenarios kind of down the line. So in the immediate term, right now, what BitcoinCash Metadata Registries mean for wallets is they are essentially a way for wallets to pull out all of the kind of subjective information that they might display to users about what tokens are, to pull all of that information out and write it in an interchangeable format that wallets can share. That's the ultimate goal. There is to have Zapit's wallet can have a registry that you can even just commit to your code base, that your wallet is reading from this registry to assign names based on token category ID and assign symbols and be able to display the number of decimals correctly and show an icon and things. Being able to pull out all of that information into a standard format that can be easily shared between wallets. So it's just a really basic. It's the most basic way to fully abstract all of those subjective decisions so that we can work together in a single registry, or in the future, users might even be able to choose the registry that they want their wallet to be looking at, or even have multiple registries. So if they have two different trusted entities that they want to have, that they're pulling in registries for. So, for example, if there's a registry that is kind of a community project that manages verifying the information about tokens, they verify that they're not using misleading ticker symbols, right? If you've got a user base that is maybe not super sophisticated, hopefully if we do well, then that your user base doesn't know much about the cryptocurrency space. You don't want your user base to be misled by a scam token that has the ticker symbol USD, right? Like that would imply that for the user, they would think that means that the wallet is holding like basically a bank deposit at the wallet company. And that would be just very misleading and would allow them to be scammed by anyone who understands the system well enough to just kind of create a new token and say that its ticker symbol is this, and they publish it on chain and get it out there. So we wanted to get a basic application layer standard that lets us kind of formalize the trust relationships that users have with the data they see in their wallet, and also be able to have wallets kind of work together on verifying the authenticity of data about tokens on chain. So in the immediate term, there's like NFTs that are sort of like trading cards that people can issue, and for those, usually you don't need as much validation. You just need to check that they're not just a complete knockoff, and they're pretending to be the original issuance of whatever sort of trading card system that was. And then the same is true of like meme coins and things that are just like for tipping for fun and whatever channels or of your social media apps. Those kinds of applications for tokens don't require a significant amount of validation to ensure that what users see in their wallets for them is authentic. But when you get past kind of those initial kind of use cases, when you get to use cases where you're like, this token represents a concert ticket, or this token represents dollars in a bank account in some jurisdiction you respect, or this token represents bars of gold held in Switzerland, or something like. When you get to that level where people are using tokens for real world commerce, you need a proper authentication system for the metadata they see in their wallets, and that is what the underlying purpose of these metadata registries are. We have built them so that we can accommodate these early use cases, but they will grow with us very, very nicely. 3 years from now, if there's a major token issuer who's issuing real world assets on cash tokens, and there's a need for a reissuance for a technical reason, metadata registries can support that, and it's something that it won't end up being a 6-month problem. It'll be a few weeks problem, as wallets are like, okay, we got to implement that now. But in general, it's not going to just sink us.
Hey, Romit, can I go on a tangent, or ask Jason to go on a tangent that will I don't know, maybe has a potential to blow people's minds, but it might be a little bit extended. I don't know. Can I ask that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we all like our minds blown, so please go ahead.
Yeah. So, Jason, forgive me, but one of the most exciting things for me, right, is the cryptographic identities, and from what I remember, BCMR has built into it kind of a migration path from the trusted systems of today to the trusted systems of that long-term future that we were talking about. Where the identity and lookup and so forth is not based on some trusted, border gateway protocol or DNS or whatever, but on actually, no, this is me and I said this and this is where the data is, that kind of thing. Could you speak a little bit to that migration path towards the future, like as we shift towards that?
Yeah. Yeah. And that, thank you. That's the, thank you for that question. If you just went and looked at the Bitcoin Cash metadata registry stuff and your context was, all right, we need to add icons to tokens, you would maybe arrive at a completely different spec because the spec really takes some of the things we're going to need 10 years from now, and it works way backwards to get to what we need bare minimum today. And so the way that the standard actually is structured is everything operates with the basic unit, the simplest entry in a metadata registry is an identity, and that's like almost a placeholder term, because an identity can be a person, or it can be a company, or it can be a class of assets, or it can be a particular type of a class of assets, or it can be a decentralized application, or a trading protocol. Like there are a ton of different things that could be identities. It could be a wallet team that publishes their wallet software, and they sign all of their wallet software with this particular identity. So this is the wallet software signing identity of Zapit, and that's one identity. So these are the fundamental primitives in Bitcoin Cash metadata registries are these identities. And we've gone ahead and built the system such that you can publish metadata at a URL, effectively like a lot of the Ethereum ecosystem actually currently works. Most users effectively just trust whatever data comes down from a trusted company into their wallet, and that's kind of natural in the Ethereum ecosystem, because Ethereum wallets can't even be light clients for the most part. They're already trusting a company for all of their data anyway, so might as well trust them for the token names too. In our case, we've built this so that you can start that way, and there's kind of a really basic kind of minimum viable Bitcoin Cash metadata registry implementation, where you can just publish it at a URL, and the user can see potentially in the wallet that could be a check mark, and it shows a check mark next to the name, the web address or whatever, zapit.io, and they get a little green check mark. This registry came from zapit.io, and if that's the web domain they trust or something, then that can be a kind of the root of trust there. But then over time, you can first migrate to using a proper on-chain identity, and then once you've got an on-chain identity, wallets can, even light clients can track the changes to that identity, so that you can, as your company gets bigger, you have 500 employees or something, they're not all going to share the same single signing key to sign your wallet software. That would be insane. If you lose one of those employees for any reason, that now there are people outside your company that have the signing keys, which ironically happens in the app stores today. But if you move to these on-chain identities, you can have a signing system where your operations team is now signing software updates, and it requires 4 of 5, and maybe it even requires essentially a time delay, because there are different strategies. All the strategies you can apply to Bitcoin Cash, you can apply to signatures in this strategy. But the metadata registries are built around this concept of identities. And then we, add the token information in a structured way to those identities. So the general concept is that when you create your NFT collection, you want to create an identity and then add the structured information inside that identity. And now over time, if that structured information changes, you have an update strategy. So, day one, you might not even start with an on-chain identity of any sort, but, several years from now, we need to be significantly more advanced in our security. And most serious projects are probably going to have on-chain identities, which is important simply for your clients to be able to, essentially instantly verify that, hey, we've done a rebrand. This is our new symbol. This is the new name, and here's the new icon. And it's really us because we're signing with the way that we said we were going to sign, and it's a multi-sig with a time delay or something like that. And we even accommodate things like redenomination of fungible tokens, or reissuance to a new token category. If for a technical reason you need to reissue fungible tokens entirely, legitimate companies that are issuing real world assets on chain will occasionally have situations where they need to do that, and our ecosystem won't completely break when that happens. It won't require every single user to understand what happened and manually input something into their wallet. We need to have a flexible system where users can offload those technical decisions to their wallet vendor or to a trusted registry manager or something like that, where you have kind of sort of checks and balances where the token issuer might want to change something about their metadata for their token, but it's not really up to the token issuer. It's something that the user has to kind of agree to also. Like you can't just change your meme coin to say that it's 100% backed by whatever in vault somewhere. That's obviously not true. And so having a somewhat formalized system to verify that metadata before it gets to those end users who don't necessarily understand the technical details or want to offload those decisions and that sort of review to trusted entities. We need to have standards that sort of that formalize those relationships so that they don't end up being essentially managed by a single company in a sort of fiefdom, which is what happens in most other ecosystems right now.
Dude, just inject this straight into my veins. This is like my sci-fi future. Because I don't think it's hard for people. I think it's hard for people to realize how much that changes. Like anybody who's worked in a corporate environment at a level where you're involved in payments or money, or at the high trust level in a corporate environment, there's a ridiculous amount of trust in a corporate environment and organizations, and a big part of it is not because people are like, well, I really trust you. It's because they have no option. They have no other way to organize things. They have no other way to set things up except through custodians and just sometimes ridiculous trust setups where one person has or 10 people have a totally inappropriate level of power to do certain things. And this like all of this, I don't know how to say it. Like I don't think people can imagine how this will transform organizations. I can't imagine it all, but I know it's going to. So yeah, man, just inject it straight in. Thanks. I appreciate that.
I think definitely blew my mind, and I think this is awesome. The saddest part of all of this is that we have so much more questions that would like we would like to get deep into each of the concepts that you just explained, but time is always our enemy, so I'm not sure how long we can keep going on with this. But maybe we can definitely have more of these where we can discuss individual ideas to a greater extent for sure. Uh, but yeah, definitely, we do have some more time that we have spared for Q&A. But before that, I have one question for both Jason and John. As everyone knows, we have been through certain amount of token systems already. SLP came, it went.
No idea what you're
Smart
talking
BCH
about.
came, it went. The main question, as a business, as a wallet, as a project, is that cash tokens is coming, so is it going to stay? Like is the third one going to be the actual one that's going to stay with us? So I just want to hear both of your thoughts, not one of yours, but I'd like to hear from both of you, what is the future of cash tokens on BCH, and how reliable is it from us, from a wallet point of view? Can we put all our efforts into this?
I Can I go first, Jason?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I have I think a short answer to that. So I'm just going to speak from a general protocols perspective. So there was SLP, and okay, I'm going to break my statement immediately. So personally, I thought SLP was amazing when it appeared, and I promoted it quite a bit because I thought, hey, this is great. It's a permissionless network. Nobody needs to ask for permission, and we can create this like basically colored coins from forever back in the day. Like, okay, finally we get colored coins without somebody like Luke Jr. trying to choke you so that you can't do it. So yeah, we get colored coins. This is awesome. And it's permissionless and nobody has to ask and we don't have to upgrade the consensus to do it. And so I thought it was excellent and it was pretty neat. But I didn't realize at the time how important it was, how important the smart transactions or smart contracts were, and being able to put rules on transactions and make the actual programmable aspect of money realized. I didn't realize how important that would be for enabling a whole economy and organizations and identities and so forth. And it turns out that SLP just wasn't fit for the task. It you just can't verify it in transactions, and it would kill scaling and trust. Like it becomes a semi-trusted setup where you've got this second layer of consensus on top of it. It turned into a mess uh, when it came down to brass tacks and the specific details of implementing things. So it just I was wrong. It was it was a great thing. It was a good experiment, but it just didn't. It wasn't up to the task of global commerce. Um, and then you mentioned multiple tokens. So I'm just going to go ahead and include Smart BCH, which wasn't actually BCH. It was an EVM uh, network. I wouldn't even really call it a sidechain. It was just an EVM network that happened to be associated with Bitcoin Cash. And yeah, I mean, an EVM has its strengths and weaknesses, has huge strengths in network effect and infrastructure that exists today. And from my perspective, it has absolutely huge weaknesses that will disqualify it from serving as the basis, as a foundation for um, a global economy of any scale. So, right, no, I don't think Smart BCH is up to the task. EVM is up to the task either. Um, right, and that brings us to Cash Tokens. I hope I didn't miss one, but Cash Tokens is the first token system that General Protocols as a company would say, yeah, this is something we can build on. And General Protocols is extremely picky about what kind of things we build and how we build. So we're very, very picky about doing things non-custodially, as trustlessly as possible, and as permissionlessly as possible. So just building straight along the alignment axis of Bitcoin Cash towards global commerce. And Cash Tokens is the first one, and it's not even a competition. Like by, yeah, I can't even say like it's an order of magnitude. It's just a different quality. It's a different level of thing. Smart BCH we wouldn't really build on. SLP we actively chose never to build on because we didn't think it was viable. Cash Tokens is completely viable. Cash Tokens was designed directly in line with all of the elements of Bitcoin from the beginning. It's kind of the trajectory that I think Bitcoin would have taken, as Jason said, in 2013, if things hadn't got derailed in 2013. I think Cash Tokens is along the lines of what we would have maybe in 2017 if things hadn't gone totally haywire back in the day. So yeah, we're very confident that Cash Tokens is going to work for global commerce, and we're going to be building with it when we have time and resources to build on it. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
And it's all good. So, and on other token systems, I'd say for me, I never really got involved with other token systems for some of the same reasons. And Cash Tokens interests me so significantly. This TAC for the smart contract applications. And I'll just say, like, very, very high level, Cash tokens are quite unique in the wider ecosystem in that they they are a bit more of a feature, a bit more of a force of nature, a feature of nature, sort of, in our protocol than token systems in other chains. Tokens on other chains are types of contracts, and really, I would say what it comes down to is cash tokens enforce user rights in a much more informed consent way. So, like, when you have a token in another ecosystem, you have like a proximal claim to something that might be the contract in the future. And on cash tokens, cash tokens specifically are like having Bitcoin, a different kind of asset that works just like Bitcoin Cash in the same exact contract systems, the same exact ways. So if you can actually implement many of the same things that can be implemented in these larger in other token ecosystems with cash tokens, but you have to get informed consent from the user's wallet. I would say you can't change the rules and add a new tax in between each transaction just because you feel like it. You have to get the users to upgrade their wallet to use a new covenant strategy that enforces your tax. And you, in order for that to really work, you needed to do it like when you started issuing your token, or you need to have some way of pulling those tokens back and reissuing them with your new terms of service, if you will. And so Bitcoin Cash, in a lot of ways, as a wider system, and cash tokens specifically, I would say build in your rights. They build in your consumer protections much more thoroughly than any cryptocurrency system has managed so far. They basically enforce informed consent at a technological layer, and I think that will be more important in the coming years as the push for central bank digital currencies continues. We want technology systems that protect rights on a fundamental level, and create lines in the sand where you have to overtly violate rights if you want to violate them on Bitcoin Cash. And I would say that is not widely the case in a lot of other cryptocurrency systems. So I know that that's a little far afield, but that, like, if you get really deep in this stuff, that's the I would say is kind of the human rights reason that I think cash tokens are important, and working on Bitcoin Cash in general is important. And it leads into I'm excited that the issuing of real world assets on cash tokens allows our economy and our the commercial side of the Bitcoin Cash world to really control its own destiny a lot more than it's been able to in the recent past. Just for example, real world assets issued on chain can be traded on decentralized exchanges, and then you suddenly have markets that you can rely on that aren't manipulated, that don't have fractional reserves, where the exchange, the decentralized exchange, or an over the counter trading protocol isn't trading against you. You're not being abused by the mechanisms of the trading itself. You have a counterparty, but the market can't be rigged against you. And so just that alone means that our prices, the price of Bitcoin Cash, will be a lot more trustable in a world where we have widely circulating, widely issued real world assets in terms of cash tokens that are trading on kind of global, liquid, censorship resistant markets. So yeah, there's just some of the implications of cash tokens are very, very large for those interested in sound money that can be used by anyone in the world.
Yeah, and if someone is looking for disruption, this is it right here. Yeah, and so also expect some resistance as well, right? Because this is not just a casino run by somebody trying to just provide entertainment or a quick buck. This is actual disruption, and this is why General Protocols chooses specifically to build on Bitcoin Cash, because the alignment is in that direction.
All right, great. It's really reassuring. It's good to know that it's a long-term solution for sure. And yeah, we are, as I said in the beginning, we are quite excited to see how this unfolds. And at least from Zapit's point of view, we can assure that a lot of the things that we build for SLP will definitely be available for on cash tokens as well, which includes like rewards. It includes the discounts. It includes the dividends tool which we have built as well. So yeah, quite excited to. Be building those things. So I think Kush, are we in time for Q&A or?
Yeah, we can move on to the Q&A. If anyone has a question or there's something that you want to talk about, you can just request. We already have one request from Julian Smith. I'm getting you on stage. Give me a second. Okay. Hi, Julian.
I think maybe he hasn't accepted yet.
He sent a request and
I there he is. Yeah, he's on now.
Yeah.
Hi, Julian, maybe you can just introduce yourself and yeah, can let us know if you have any question or if you have any thoughts. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Julian Smith. I'm sort of enjoy cryptocurrency and do some dev stuff here and there. And just a few questions about the conversation, which was really excellent. Thank you so much for everyone sharing what they've been working on. Jason, you were mentioning about the dust being 700 Satoshis or BCH Satoshis, and that if a second ticket was bought, then that would effectively top up the token holder's wallet. Is it also possible to just send directly BCH, a penny or a couple of pennies to the person's wallet, top it up just with coin? That would be one question. I've got two others, so I'll just take those and then yield the mic. Developer tooling around.
Well, here I'll answer that first, and then
Okay,
we can do one at a time. Certainly. There's nothing stopping you from developing other systems where the user can somehow request a penny. I mean, if you're building a business on stuff like this, where you're doing a loyalty system, loyalty point system, or you're doing concert tickets or something as cash tokens, as a company, it might make sense for you to let the user click a captcha button or something and then get a penny in Bitcoin Cash in their wallet, right? There are lots of when fees are just predictably low, and we're building for a future where there are massive numbers of transactions happening on chain. If you're a company and building on this system, it makes sense for you to do things like send users a penny if they have a verified account of some sort, or somehow bake in giving them $1 worth of Bitcoin Cash and just sticking it in their wallet in the spot that it is like their token fee balance, and it doesn't even show up in their normal Bitcoin Cash balance. It's their backup fee amount. So certainly, yes. And then I would say, from a strictly technical standpoint, it always makes the most sense to send that Bitcoin Cash in the output that has the token, because you save, 80 bytes or whatever it is. The transaction is actually really, really small. It's actually incredibly efficient to send somebody both the token and the Bitcoin Cash. I'll add on that note, as you're thinking about things with these tokens, if you're a company and you're like selling tickets in terms of cash tokens, and you're selling them for Bitcoin Cash, something that's cool that you can do, you can actually create a transaction where there's an atomic swap where they get the ticket and you get the their Bitcoin Cash in the same transaction, so that you don't have to worry about zero conf issues if both of you want the transaction to confirm. And then from a company's perspective, sometimes that is more difficult to arrange an atomic swap, because you need the user's wallet to be slightly more advanced. And if you want to support multi-currency wallets and just make it make things simply work, a good option actually is to use the money they sent you on Bitcoin Cash, use that output in the transaction where you send them the token, and then the token transaction is dependent on their payment transaction. So there again, you can do zero conf and be confident that if they actually wanted the ticket, then the zero conf transaction is immediately as secure as if it were confirmed, because the user wants it confirmed as well. So I think that answers your first question. Maybe does that answer your first question?
Extremely well. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. The next sort of question is, okay, I'm listening to the spaces, and I'm of a mind to develop some Bitcoin Cash token projects as a developer or as hiring developers into our business. What's the best way to look at developer tooling around creating cash tokens, around the programmable rules for contracts and cash addresses? How should we upskill in that area? And I guess there's multiple people in the space that can speak to that.
Yeah, certainly. I won't sugarcoat the tooling is going to be rather complex right now. You really need to understand what you're doing at a low level transaction level. It's going to be a little while before our libraries and our tooling are simple enough that developers don't necessarily need to understand the mechanics of what's happening. So I'd say step one, you should understand what the transaction looks like when you're constructing it, and you should be able to write the tools basically to create those transactions in the current state of our ecosystem there. But over time, certainly libraries and utilities and existing kind of power user wallets will make it a lot easier for companies that are not necessarily Bitcoin Cash native or not necessarily native to this space, to do things like issuing loyalty point programs and store credit and gift cards and things like that. And of course, if you're an entrepreneur in our space, now is the time to build those, build your website and start selling that product. Like create a software as a service system to make it easy for companies to do stuff like that. There's a huge number of applications out there where people have value in some way, in some system, that they would like to be able to move between apps, quite literally. If you buy a ticket in one app, it would be nice if you could send that ticket to somebody else in a secure way, rather than like sending a screenshot. It doesn't take much to provide vastly more value to end users. And your competitors right now are probably not going to do it. The big competitors in these industries are not going to give up their fiefdom in being the one company that everybody has to go through for tickets, for example, or everybody has to go through for credit cards, for gift cards and store credit. Like these systems tend to be controlled by a single company. It's in the company's database, and it's a feature that users don't get to have kind of full control over the assets that they have a claim to in those systems. So there's big opportunity for entrepreneurs here to start disrupting some of these ecosystems that have big closed walled garden systems around just real world assets that people have represented on their phone in some way.
Yeah, it's the wild, wild west, but it's the good kind. This is the foundational days when things are kind of a mess, but every single person that's involved in a significant way makes a specific difference in how things evolve from here on. So I don't know. This is a really exciting time for me.
Okay.
And I think Julian specifically, we've met before, at least back in 2019, and
Yep.
I
True.
think Julian is one of those people that is definitely capable of knowing what's going on and understanding how things work and acting in the wild, wild west. So yeah, I'm interested to see what you come up with.
Well, broadly speaking, on-chain public futures contracts.
Make it so.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I mean. What I mean earlier when I said
licensed.
there's so many opportunities available, and it's just like, oh, we're gonna do futures. It's like, yeah, okay, you go do futures,
Yeah,
right?
so I've licensed patent protected. Like there's another developer on the BTC space, and he's like, oh, BCH, that's a shit coin. I'm like, you're so right. So can I like just implement this concept on that? And he's like, yeah, sure, that could be part of your remuneration. So I'm like, yeah, awesome, that works.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know this is off topic and I'm not a speaker, but what keeps banging on my head when I'm thinking about this stuff is for all the hate with the laser eyes and the BTC stuff, the switching cost, like if you're a miner, the switching cost is de minimis. Like you mine BTC because you do, but a SHA-256 ASIC can switch to whatever's profitable.
Yeah. There's a reason Bitcoin Cash didn't switch away from SHA-256. That's it's a giant source of security that we specifically chose to keep. So yeah.
Something that's kind of notable on that in that line. You'll see lots of discussion in lots of places about voice versus exit, and in general, human liberty tends to advance via exit. Voice tends to not be very, very effective. It can kind of defend liberty, but you don't tend to make big strides unless you are at least capable of exit. And it's worth considering, what kind of precedent it would set for the world if a major exit was able to uncapture Bitcoin following its capture. That I think is one of the reasons that I'm interested in working on Bitcoin Cash. It's the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. The precedent set by each of these situations in which Bitcoin Cash now has taken a technical direction that was generally best for advancing peer-to-peer cash for all humanity, where the specific individuals who were currently sort of in charge at the time of whatever kind of community power structures there were, where they had different interests. Bitcoin Cash has now done that a few times, and if we continue building and keep working, keep eyes on the goal of making peer-to-peer money that actually works for all people and protects human rights and property rights. We keep focused on that. It would be quite the precedent if Bitcoin Cash were able to retake the mantle as the largest of the SHA-256 chains in whatever future that is. It would itself, the existence of that precedent would itself be protective against future capture, because no matter how hard you try, that we might come back 8 years later or 9 years later, whatever it is, and kick you back out. And that itself would be quite the precedent.
Hey guys, thanks for the answers there. But just to let everyone know, this spaces is about cash tokens. So if you could keep the questions regarding cash tokens, that would be great. So yeah, is there anyone else? Kush?
Yeah. Do we have any more questions from the audience? Because no one's requested it. Okay. Till I think if no one's requesting for a question, I'll ask one last question and then we can wrap this spaces. The question I want to ask you all is, as a community, how can we ensure wider adoption for cash tokens? Like, what all can we do?
Make money. No, I'm
Create
not kidding at
incentives.
all.
I think
I'm not
that's
kidding at
what I'm
all.
looking.
You make money. You make products that are useful enough that people are willing to pay to use them, or they make money using them, or whatever it is. And hopefully, as much as possible, just not limited to just pure, Ponzi type speculation, but as much utility you can provide that people use it and it helps them to make money or helps make their life better. That's exactly how you will draw people to it. Because once people realize that they can provide better products, better services, and make more money using Bitcoin Cash, using a permissionless, trustless network, once they realize that they can do that, you won't have to market at all. And adoption
100%.
will go through the roof.
Yep. Ditto.
And I would say, there has to be incentives as well for people to switch from one network or one system to another. Usually, economic incentives help a lot. That's exactly why, from Zapit's point of view, we try to have as much incentive as possible to let users gain the benefit by using a particular system. The incentive itself doesn't have to be the main product, but if it is a byproduct, I think even that helps a lot to get people, to attract people into a particular system. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, economic incentives, that's like the whole foundation of Bitcoin since the beginning, for sure. Do things that help people, that help them make money, that help them have a better life. And yeah, they're going to want to use it.
yeah, definitely. All right, I guess I would like to thank Jason, John, Kuldeep, Kush, and everyone else who was part of this spaces. I guess it was a great insight, and it was the first spaces that we hosted as Zapit. So congratulations to us, I guess. Yeah. Apart from that, yeah, I think we enjoyed this conversation here, and yeah, looking forward to having more of these. Definitely have a lot more questions, a lot more ideas to discuss. So, we can guarantee that there will be more of these in the
Oh,
future.
good. I'd really like to have more in here. Zapit's latest escapades and adventures in the stuff that you guys are providing. So I'd love to hear more about that. So yeah, I'd love to hear more
Sure.
of
Yeah.
these.
Yes, we are getting involved in this a lot more. So yes, we're definitely going to be putting things out there, and yeah, we are definitely building a lot of things as well as we speak. It may look like we are silent, but we usually are building in silence. So yeah,
Oh yeah,
definitely we'll be putting a lot of things out there.
excellent.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for hosting. This has been fun. Appreciate it.
Goodbye,
Awesome.
everyone.
Thanks, guys. All
See
right.
y'all.
Thank you,
Speaking of
Thanks.
it,
Good to
All
talk
right.
with you
bye,
guys.
guys.
Take care.
Yeah.